Zooey Mama, how's it going, everybody? I'm here today to give my final thoughts on Sebastian Shaw before he gets released. He is the new season pass card coming out in December, and I'm also going to show the deck that I will be playing him in day one of his release. Now, I originally did a video on all the cards coming out in December, and since then, basically every card has been buffed and or just removed from the December lineup like Firestar. So I wanted to cover Sebastian Shaw again and just give my final closing thoughts. So he is a 3-cost 4-powered card, previously data mined at only 3 power, but he's now at 4 power. And his ability is that when this card permanently gains power, he's going to gain plus 2 more power wherever he is. So if he's on the board, in your hand, or in your deck, and you use a different card that will power him up, he's going to gain plus 2 more. So I think it's a pretty interesting ability. I do think it is one-dimensional. Okay, I still think he is worse than Werewolf by Night, even though his starting stat is now a 3-4. I think he's pretty good, but I just don't see him with the same power ceiling that a card like Werewolf by Night has, because he just doesn't have that much synergy in the game. And when you see the deck I put him in, it basically uses almost all of the cards you can to power him up. So I think Shaw is a card that actually gets better over time as more cards get released, because once more cards that can power him up come out, he's just going to keep getting better and better. Okay, so I do think he's decent. I think just being, again, one-dimensional, whereas Werewolf by Night can power up, and Werewolf by Night also moves across lanes, so it's very hard for your opponent to kill him with Shang-Chi or take his power down with Shadow King. With Sebastian Shaw, he is just sitting there in one lane. Okay, so even if you get him to some crazy number like 310 or 312, he is just a target for Shang-Chi or Shadow King. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. And let's go ahead and take a look at this deck that I put him in. I think he aligns great with Silver Surfer. I think that's the obvious deck to put him with. And here we've got Forge, Elsa, Ironheart, Nakia, Silver Surfer, and sometimes Iron Lad, who can power up Sebastian Shaw. Okay, I do think you need more than one trigger. If you just have a deck with, say, only Silver Surfer and no other buff cards, I don't think Shaw is worth it. If Silver Surfer hits Shaw once, Shaw becomes a 3-8. And a 3-8's good, but I mean, Spider-Man or Polaris getting hit by Silver Surfer once becomes 3-7. Maximus getting hit once becomes 3-9. So a 3-8 isn't crazy. I really do think you need to trigger Sebastian Shaw's ability at least twice to get decent value. Okay, and if you do that, he could be 312 fairly easily. So he has good strength there. Now, you could go really all into it and use something like Wong plus Mystique into Silver Surfer or Ironheart, you know, some big crazy wombo combo, but you can do that with a lot of cards. Okay, if you have a wombo combo deck and you're playing and you get the combo off, it's gonna work with or without Shaw, in my opinion. I don't think those decks actually need Shaw to become better or more consistent. The problem with big wombo combo decks is that you don't often get all the pieces. Okay, they're inconsistent, and Shaw doesn't help with that. He just adds more power. So I'm going to be playing him again in this list. It's fairly standard Surfer. It is more based on power with cards like Nakia and Shaw himself instead of tech, but it does still have, you know, Spider-Man and Rogue as some tech cards. So I'll see how that goes. I do think this deck looks pretty good and solid, but I'm not sure if it's actually going to be better than a standard Silver Surfer deck that maybe has less power potential, but more tech options like Cosmo, Killmonger, and that sort of thing. Okay, again, it's very important not to just look at a card and say, okay, what cards can it synergize with? What decks can it fit in? I think it's important to look at the other way around and say, what decks really need this card? You know, what other cards are going to rely on Shaw to just be really good or be at the top of the meta? You want a deck that's going to need Shaw to thrive. I think that will be really the test to see if Shaw is a good card. If there are decks that actually need him, not just cards that he can synergize with, okay? And it's possible that maybe he makes cards like Okoye and Nakia popular. I mean, he really could bring up some deck that uses Okoye, Nakia, and Sebastian Shaw, plus, you know, 9 other cards, and that deck turns out to be really strong, you know, kind of a new archetype shell, if you will. So it's possible he does that. Currently, I'm not sure what he actually makes better. Even the Surfer list, again, I don't know if he actually makes it better, and that's really the important thing. So to just give my final ratings, I have Shaw at 3.5 stars out of 5. 5 would be a card that I think just looks absolutely busted and almost guaranteed to just be amazing. 4 just being a card that's solid, pretty dang good, and 3 being a card that's decent but maybe passable. I think Shaw I have a 3.5. You know, a lot of people are hyped on him. I think what's really holding me back, again, is that he only does one thing. He just powers himself up. And while he can get pretty big, at least for a 3 cost, I'm just not sure he's dynamic enough. You know, he gets countered really easily, much easier than Werewolf by Night. I'm not sure he gets as big by Werewolf by Night, and you might have to play him in decks or with card synergies that are just a bit awkward. I think he really does pick up over time, like I mentioned, as more cards come out. So we'll have to see how right or how wrong I am here. I think he's probably the worst Season Pass card in a while. I think he's worse than Miss Marvel. I think he's worse than Elsa and Loki on release. I think he's a bit better than Dawkins. So I would compare him to Dawkins, who's also 3/4. Although I'd say Shaw is a bit better. He can get a bit more power. So again, maybe that's a hot take, but I think a lot of the previous Season Pass cards do multiple things, and they can really add power across the board. And with Sebastian Shaw, you know, being a simple ability, I don't think is bad. You can buy the Season Pass if you're new to Marvel Snap. If you're just in Pools 1 or Pools 2, you can still buy the Season Pass card. So I think having a Season Pass card with a very, you know, simple, easy to understand ability, easy to trigger, easy to build around, can be good for new players. Okay, so I think as a Season Pass card, he's good. I think he fits the mold. I don't think he's amazing. I don't even know if I think he's great. I think he's just good, a bit better than decent. And so, you know, I think he's healthy for the game. I'm excited to try him out. Again, I could just be wrong. He could be amazing value, constantly getting to 312 or higher pretty easily. So we'll have to see how it goes. But overall, I like Shaw. I think he's interesting, and I'm excited to play him now and a bit in the future with more card releases. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. If there are any other very obvious, easy to play combos that I'm missing, any decks or archetypes that you think absolutely will need to include Sebastian Shaw in once he comes out. And if you just think I'm dead wrong about all of this, so let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.